Hello everyone, Anthony Austin here. I'm finally getting around to do the review on my Ruger SR40. I built this gun for use in USPSA to shoot in the major class because I was shooting an a regular 9E, and minor power factor was just too big of a disadvantage. So I wanted one that would hold up in the major power factor, and so I chose an SR40, which is exactly the same as an 9E or an SR9 with minor mod differences. So overall, I'm really happy with how the build turned out, but I think it's time to just do a review and go get another project gun. So without further ado, this is everything I did to make this gun perform well as a competition pistol. Alrighty, we're going to be talking about, we're going to start off with the mods, things we did to this gun, and then I'll get into why I did what I did with this. We're going to start with the frame here. As you can see, frame has been stippled in every place that it was smooth from the factory. Around here where it says the logo, Ruger, this is the factory checkering, and then we have the stippling. This was just done with a hot iron, little dabs, a little bit of patience, a little bit of planning, and it turns out excellent. It gives you excellent grip on the pistol and helps mitigate recoil, which there isn't much to begin with, but this will help even more. Makes follow-up shots and controlling the pistol a lot faster and easier. The next step was, of course, polishing of the block here, mirror polish on the top, and minor polishing inside where the frame is. You don't want to remove any material, you just want to make it a little bit just more of a mirrored finish, and that'll keep it from losing timing or becoming sloppy, but it'll make it so everything slides a lot easier. Polishing the back block here that's molded into the frame, as well as the sear, the trigger bar on both sides, and slight contouring this piece right here. This is your plunger detent, or this is where the trigger moves over to plunger as you pull the trigger to the rear. This is what moves your firing pin block detent. If you just smooth over the top right there, it makes it nice and shiny, so it'll slide against the plunger easier. Everything is polished up, lubed up, and just clean up from the factory. These guns come really nicely finished, but there is machine marks that you can remove. Then, of course, moving on to the barrel, the chamber block was all mirror polished up in here. The feed ramp was, of course, polished as well. And then all the moving pieces were giving a light polishing, basically just scuffing over and cleaning up, and they polished themselves. But you want to remove any sharp edges or any machine marks on flat surfaces, because your barrel, as it tilts and moves inside the pistol, you want to have it nice and smooth. As you can see, we just clean all that up, no machine marks. Make sure it slides freely and easily. While we were changing out the pistol, put in a stainless steel trigger system, recoil spring from Galloway. It's a little bit heavier, so it keeps the nose down better than the stock plastic unit. You can see the plastic one is here, Galloway is here. You have that stainless steel bar all the way through on the inside, whereas the stocker is just a piece of plastic. They're both captured spring, and I opted for a slightly lighter 19-pound recoil spring as opposed to the 18-pound stainless steel guide rod as opposed to the stock 20. It just, with the ammo I'm using, it makes follow-up, it keeps it so there's less recoil and follow-up shots come that much faster. Alright, we also polished the spear, trigger block. Moving on to the slide, this is part of the Galloway Smooth It kit. It is a polished plunger for the firing pin. Now, one thing I've noticed that I don't like is that you may not be able to see, I'll put it in the picture next to it, but there's a little pitting on the face of the plunger, and it's from where that piece comes over and will gouge into the plunger a little bit. And this is not a stock plunger that they polish, this is their own machined plunger, so I'm not overly impressed with their plunger, but it doesn't seem to affect the smoothness of the trigger at all. Also, we adjusted the height of the loaded when up indicator. I'll show you when it's assembled. I'll put a round in there, make sure everything's safe. But the stock one normally sits about that high, right about there, high up when it's loaded. Mine sits about like right there. You'll barely be able to see it, but you'll be able to feel it easily. So it doesn't sit. That's about how high it sits when it's loaded with a in the stock configuration, right about there. Mine sits right in there. Stock rear sight, which is adjustable, and I love that. But I have a fiber optic front sight from Shop Ruger, the site from the actual website, and it's not super easy to get in there, but it takes some work, of course, like any other aftermarket piece that's quality. You'll still have to do a little work to get it in there well. But once it's in, it makes a huge difference in daylight compared to the stock sights. It transmits a lot of light through there. It doesn't wash out the target, but it still makes it faster on acquisition, especially on presentation. So when you're picking up the pistol, bring it on sight, it's a lot easier to see where that front sight post is because it stands out more. Another modification we also did to the frame was the Ghost trigger bar with the reset stop. You'll be able to see right here if it focuses. Right here. This is the bar. This is this portion here where normally these pieces are flush. You'll see in the pictures here in a moment what the stock one looks like. But this keeps the trigger from being reset as far. So as soon as that trigger breaks is when that bar hits. Boom. And it stops the over travel of the trigger. This bar also shortens the reset of the trigger. So it resets faster and it stops immediately after the sear releases. So it makes follow-up shots faster, and it also reduces the trigger pull below 6 pounds, which is damn good for a striker fire pistol. It's actually closer to 4 pounds. And if you don't believe me, you will once you see me pulling the trigger. It's super light. Alrighty. This thing, so guide rod, smooth trigger kit. Another portion of the trigger kit is it replaces the trigger reset spring with a heavier one. It makes it so it replaces the plunger spring with a lighter spring and a lighter plunger that's polished. A trigger reset spring, which is a little bit heavier to offset the weight when you're pulling the trigger. It actually makes it lighter because the trigger is heavier. When it resets, it goes a little slower, but it doesn't matter because it's already way lighter. It's an awesome system, and I highly recommend it. May not opt for the kit with the plunger next time. I might just use the stock plunger itself with the Galloway plunger spring, but it was worth every penny. And yes, it makes a difference. I mean, it's not a night and day difference, but it is a difference that when you add it on with the totality of the systems, the rocket trigger bar, and the springs, it definitely crispens up and frees up the trigger. So let's put everything back together real quick. Show you what it feels like on the trigger. clear. As you can see the trigger, I'm pulling it, and snap, boom. Trigger is not aggressive so much as it's consistent until right at the very end. Then you feel a little bit of stacking right there, and then it's bang, it just breaks screen. And as you can see, the reset distance is shortened, and the length of pull and over travel is a lot shorter. Once that trigger breaks, once the sear breaks, the trigger should immediately stop right there, and I can't pull it any farther than that. Now you have to set all these up yourself. You have to do all the trimming and filing yourself, and it takes a couple tries to get it perfect, but once you do, it's worth every penny. And even if you trim it a little bit too much, that just means you'll have just a little bit more over travel, and the pistol will still function perfectly. Now, I didn't opt for any of the other stainless steel pieces or additional parts from Galloway because I didn't think they'd make that much of a difference overall. I got all the pieces that I thought would make this pistol super smooth, consistent, and fast. As you can see, there's no pressure, no change in my hand as I'm pulling the trigger, and I'm trying to do it pretty for the camera here. In competition, it's much smoother, much faster. Boom. Awesome system. Works up the gun perfectly. Fiber optic sight makes it so it pulls up onto target faster. And neat little toy here I've already reviewed. This is competition legal. Brings it up to the legal limit. 20 round magazine out of a 40. So overall, this system was an awesome pistol for the major power factor and the production. I think it's, if I remember right, production. Now I can't remember, but production class or limited class. So this was my limited major power factor pistol, and it worked perfectly. Now I need to practice a little more on my gamemanship. I don't have any video of me in a competition. Every time I went there, all I was focused on was shooting. But I'm really happy with how this went. Highly recommend it to everybody. And now I'm going to sell it. If you want a review on the stock pistol and see what everybody else thinks, I'm sure they're out there. You can watch hundreds of them on YouTube. But this is what I did to make my pistol perfect for what I was going to use it for. Now, pros of this gun, and of course it's light, tons of modifications to make it how you want it to feel. It's extraordinarily inexpensive for what you're getting. You're getting a pistol that's on par with every other mass-produced striker fire pistol out there. But you're doing it for usually less, and it's unique. Cons. For competition, a lot of people say the safety is a con. They won't like the fact that you have to disengage the safety. But now when I draw, my thumb's already doing it automatically. So as soon as my hand's on there and it clears, I already have it in position before my second hand comes up for support. So on the draw, come up, out, down, boom, into proper presentation. Simple. So I'm going to show you some things that you're going to need to look for when you buy parts. Oh, of course, everybody's favorite mod, removing the magazine block safety, which is just crazy redundant even in our legal times. Now here's the stock trigger reset bar. As you can see, it has the on this upright, there's no piece that goes out in front of it to act as a trigger stop for over travel. Whereas with this modified Ruger rocket from Ghost, you'll see there is one there. So this one doesn't have it on top, this one does have it. See a little bar right there? Now, I have 3 of these things. None of these are the one that's in this gun. These were all from Ghost for the Ruger SR series pistols. All 3 of these. See, they have all 3 have the bar on it, but these are the ones that don't work. I wanted to show you on the website, as you see in the picture, the updated trigger bar only has 1 hole, whereas these all ones have 2. So I went through all these trying to find out what was going on until I compared the actual pictures of the updated bar and saw it only had 1 hole. You want to buy the ones that only have 1 hole. The ones with 2 holes won't work. The pistol will not function properly. Either they won't let the trigger reset correctly, or the trigger won't set correctly. And no matter what you do, as you can see, this one's really ground down. I kept adjusting the angles and everything, but it just wouldn't work. And the reason is because of this back tab here. On the back, you see how narrow? You'll see how narrow this is if I can get it to focus, compared to the stock, and I'll have pictures of it, of course. If I can get it to focus. There we go. The stock one is a lot wider than the rocket one. The updated has a wider reset in the back here. Now the problem was the actual trigger bar was getting caught on the rocket. It was too shallow, and the bar was going underneath it and catching him inside the mechanism, inside the trigger housing. So we needed this longer one that's like the stock to stop that from happening. So if you get this one with the 2 holes, it will not function correctly because it doesn't have a big enough trigger bar stops tab. And again, with the plunger for the Galloway Smooth kit, this is the stock plunger, and yes, it's a little bigger and heavier, but I feel if you polish this, if you remove all this coating and polish it up real well, that this will actually last longer and work just as well as the Galloway one, as the Galloway one is showing signs of wear already, and I probably only have 500 rounds on it. So this one right here has at least 300 rounds on it before I put the Galloway Smooth kit on. So yeah, just something to look out for. If Galloway's watching, which I doubt they will, it might be something they need to look at. But anyways, thank you all for watching, and stay safe.